Good morning, first grade, Monday, April 6, 2020. Moving into our time lesson for today, measuring time, lesson 2. Hope you had a great weekend, and we're going to start off with a happy Monday. Happy Monday. We're going to start, if you'll grab yours, with our analog clock. And oh, my little piece fell off. I am so sorry to tell you this is my third recording of this lesson today. We're having some technical problems with our iPads, so I hope that you'll get to see this one today. Starting with our analog clock, my red shorthand points to the hour, my long blue hand points to the minutes. I'm remembering there are 60 minutes in an hour. Every one of these little blue spaces on your analog clock represents 1 minute. And if you start right here and you go all the way around and you count by ones, it will take you all the way back around to the 12 to 60 because there are 60 minutes in an hour. My short red hand looks like it's on the 10, but actually it's just a little past the 10, so it's between the 10 and 11. Remember, if my short hand is between the 10 and 11, my hour is going to be 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ST, start time, 10. I'm going to put my colon. My colon separates my hour and my minutes. My long hand is on the 2. It seems like it would be 10:02 or 10:02, but I know when I count my minutes on an analog clock, I go to my starting point. I don't look at the big number and say that as my minutes. I go to my starting point, which is the 12, and I count by fives until I get to where my blue hand stops. So here we go, starting point. Count with me on your clock. 5, 10. I stopped on 10 because that's where my blue hand stopped. So if your long blue hand is on the 2, your number of minutes is going to be 10. So my time on my analog clock is 10:10 a.m. 10:10 a.m., 10 minutes after 10, 10 minutes past 10. A.m. antemeridium, that's one of our vocabulary terms for this week. When we come back to the end of our lesson, I'm going to go ahead and write, we're going to be adding our end time at the end of our lesson. I should hear you with me from home. Time, and more time. Just show me the time. I have up on the smart board for you, these are some tools for measuring time. If I want to measure length, I might use a ruler, a yardstick, a meter stick, a measuring tape, a tape measure, an odometer. If I want to measure time, I might use a grandfather clock. Long ago, they used Egyptian water clocks. I might use an analog clock. That's what I use in the classroom. At home, you might use a digital clock, and some of our watches are digital, and some people, especially a long time ago, used an hourglass to measure time. Some people still use an hourglass today. We're going to start with a short poem, a Hickory Dickory Dock. This is not in your shared reading packet. This is one we're going to do together. I hope you can see those words up on the smart board, reading along with me as I read that poem to you. Hickory Dickory Dock. Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse ran down. Hickory Dickory Dock. And yes, I am going to share that clip with you this morning. So, if I can get it to work, and it is, enjoy.
Hickory dickory dock, up the clock. The clock struck one, the mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. The clock struck one, the mouse ran down. Hickory dickory dock.
Last year, that was one of my first graders' favorites. Now we're going to move right into our calendar and time vocabulary. This has already been in your packet. You should still be working on this at home. If we were here at school today, and we do this a lot during Fantastic Five, I would say, who's ready for the time challenge? And I would call out really quickly a quick little quiz out loud and see who could go all the way through without getting stuck. This is a good way for you to practice at home with your families. Here we go, time quiz. Seconds in a minute, 60. Minutes in an hour, 60. Hours in a day, 24. Jump in with me and give me the answers as I pause. Days in a week, 7. Days in a year, 365. Weeks in a year, 52. Months in a year, 12. Years in a decade, 10. Years in a century, 100. Years in a millennium, 1,000. Next, AM antemeridium. I know that means in the morning. PM postmeridium, in the afternoon. The next 3 are going to be part of my lesson today. We talked about this on the video last week. We said when it's 15 minutes after the hour, another way to say 15 minutes after the hour is quarter past, because there are 15 minutes in 1/4 or 1/4 of an hour. Then 30 minutes after the hour, another way to say that is half past, because there are 30 minutes in a half hour or 30 minutes in 1/2 of an hour. And then 45 minutes after the hour would not be past, but it would be 1/4 till the next hour. And that gets to be a little bit tricky. We're going to hit that when we partition our circle into 4 equal pieces as part of our regular math lesson today. So we will be coming back to that. The next chunk is I did this on the video last week, is our ways to remember how many days are in each month. I know one month either has 31, 30, 29, or 28 days. When we're doing that little quick quiz, mental map in class, I like you to tell me 28, 29, 30, or 31. I'm giving you a couple little tricks to help you remember how do you know which months have how many days. One way I'm helping you to remember is I have this little rhyme or this little poem for you. This one is not in your packet. This one is short. This is on your vocabulary list. This is one of those things you can be practicing when you do your shared reading. I actually learned this when I was probably about 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grade, and it stuck in my brain, and this helps me remember how many days are in each month. Believe it or not, I know some grown-ups who sometimes still get tricked by which months have how many days, which months have 30, which months have 31. So this is a resource to help us remember. 30 days has September. Reading with me, forgot to remind you, starting over again. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. Except in leap year, then it's time when February's days are 29. That song, that poem, that rhyme, however you want to read it, that will help you, if you get it memorized, help you remember which months have which number of days. Another thing I showed you last week, this is something I always teach my class when I'm teaching measuring time, is how to use the knuckle trick. This is so easy, it works, it's a resource that you can use anywhere you are, anytime, no matter how old you get, and all you have to do to use this resource is to ball up your fist. So I want you right now to ball up your fist with me. You see my big fat knuckles that are kind of sticking up just a little bit. Now I'm going to go through my months of the year. You're already really good at the months of the year because Mrs. Little taught you that months of the year song. We've done that a lot in first grade as a little review. So watch me. January on the knuckle, February in the ditch. March on the knuckle, April in the ditch. May on the knuckle, June in the ditch. July on the knuckle, August back on the knuckle, September in the ditch, October on the knuckle, November in the ditch, December on the knuckle. And that's where I stop. Now, last week or the week before, my days and weeks have started running together. Last week or the week before, I gave you some pages in your classwork packet that had, it looked a little bit better than this, that had the hand drawn out, and that's going to roll over and be my thumb. And then I had a classwork example, and your job was to take the classwork example and you were to copycat like we do for homework a lot. So I'm going to go through my months of the year. January, February. Last time I did this, I left out May. I hope I don't get tricked today. March, April, May, June, July. Now this is the trickiest part because after I do July, I go back and I'm going to double stack my months and I'm going to write August right above July, September, October, November, December. And then I'm going to go back and draw in. These are my big, fat, juicy knuckles. Big, fat, juicy knuckles, just like we do big, fat, juicy points. Now, all my months that are on a knuckle, January, December, March, October, May, August, July, all of those months have 31 days. All of my months that are in the ditch, I call those the ditch months, they have 30 days, except for February. February's the weirdo. February has 28 days, the only weird month that doesn't fall in the same pattern as the rest of the month. And then in leap year, which we had this first grade year in February 2020, in leap year, February has 29 days. One way I remember which year is going to be a leap year, and we have a leap year every 4 years. What helps me remember the leap years is the leap year falls on the same year or during the same year as a presidential election year, getting in a little social studies. So 2020 was a leap year, so 2020 is also going to be a presidential election year. Now that was a review. There's nothing for you to do in your packet this week with the months of the year unless you had some extra time and you were just looking for a little something extra to do. You could draw that out on a clean white sheet of paper for a little extra practice. Now we did this last week on our video, and it is in your packet for this week. And this is actually a little chant or a little rhyme that Mrs. Sheppard wrote, and it's called Our Power, Minutes in an Hour. It's going to help you with how many minutes are in a quarter of an hour, a half of an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and a whole hour. That goes along with your calendar time vocabulary. Here we go. Our power, minutes in an hour. This is one of our shared readings for today, so I should hear you with me. 15, 30, 45, 60, an hour, our power. Now go take a shower. If you were in class today, I would be adding in these motions. We came up with this when I was a second grade teacher at Wintergreen Primary. We came up with this many years ago as a good little way to act out our poem. And we started doing like this. Our power, minutes in an hour. 15, 30, 45, 60, an hour, our power. Now go take a shower. Those are some motions we came up with that were just made it a little bit fun for us to do. Now that's in your shared reading packet for this week. You may, if you have time today, you may go to the Illustrate Shared Reading station, and that's one of the poems you can be practicing, working on your fluency, and you can also be illustrating. I do have a couple of clips. We're going to come back to those a little bit later. Now, this was actually in last week's packet. Some of you have already done this. Some of you are a little bit behind. So if you've already done it, this is a good review. If you haven't gotten to it, this will be something that will help you as you move into this lesson. This would be in class, what would be a classwork example. And for homework, even though you did it last week, if you're all caught up on your lessons, for homework, you would copycat the classwork example. Now, I'm going to take this and use it as my resource, and I'm going to show you what you did last week. I had the circle already drawn. I put a big, fat, juicy point smack dab in the middle. I took my ruler, reviewing measuring length where we worked a lot with our rulers. I would take my ruler, I can't do my ruler up on the smart board, but you can at home, and I would break that circle into 2 equal pieces. I just did what I call partition that circle into 2 equal pieces. And I know this would be 1/2, and I know this would be 1/2. When my circle is broken into 2 equal pieces, one piece is 1/2, the other piece is 1/2. Now, if this was a clock, this would be my 12, which I know is right up here, my starting point when I'm helping figure out my minutes. And then right down here, I would put my 6. If my long hand is on the 6, it is half past the hour because there are 30 minutes in 1/2 of an hour. 60 minutes in an hour, 30 minutes in 1/2 of an hour. Now I'm going to change this, even though this is 1/2, on my clock, I'm going to change that to 2 halves, which means if I go all the way with my minute hand around to my 12, then I have traveled 60 minutes around that clock. Remember, each one of those little blue sections on your clock equals 1 minute. So every time that little second hand moves, every time that minute hand moves to one of those little sections Every time it moves, that means another minute has passed. Now, you did this last week as your classwork from your packet. This week in your packet, you have a page that looks like this. And unless you worked ahead, nobody should have gotten to this part yet. So this is the page that's in your packet for this week. And I'm going to show you, this would be your classwork example, and you have a page to do for Monday, and all you're going to do is copycat what your classwork example looks like. I'm going to start by drawing a circle. I'm going to put a point smack dab in the middle. Now this one's going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to come straight up, point, straight down, point, straight to the right, point, straight to the left, point. So I have point in the center, point, 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 point. And then I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to glide. Now, you know, up on the smart board, mine doesn't look the neatest, it doesn't look the straightest, but you get the point. If we were doing this at school, I would be doing that at my table, and I would have you coming over and sit at my table for math groups, and then you would copycat what I showed you on a piece of paper at my table. But since you're not here in class, I'm doing it up on the smart board. Now I know each little section of my circle that I partitioned into 4 equal pieces. Each little section is equal to 1/4 of an hour. 4 equal pieces, each piece equals 1/4. And then I would take my clock as a resource. I'm going to write in the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9. And then if I'm filling in from my classwork example, the 12 is going to be on the hour. This is what you'll write on your page today. The 3 is going to be 1/4 past. The 6 is going to be 1/2 past. Notice I wrote mine down. Over here I wrote it a little bit differently. You slide it anywhere you have some space. And the 9 is going to be 1/4 till the next hour. So 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And then I'm going to write in my hour power, minutes in an hour, 15, 30, 45, 60, an hour, hour power. Now go take a shower. And I'm going to write in my 15, my 30, my 45, and my 60. And that's one of your jobs that you have in your math packet this week. Kind of like what you had last week, but last week we broke that clock into 2 equal pieces, 1/2, 1/2, total 2 halves. This week we're breaking into 4 equal pieces, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. As we move a little later into the school year, you're going to be partitioning shapes into fractions, and this is a good fraction introduction that we're actually doing with measuring time. Now, I did this last week, fractions of an hour. I told you this was a poem that I borrowed from Ms. Gaddis and Miss Waller, who I taught with at South Greenville Elementary School. And this goes to the tune of the wheels on the bus. Now, I'm going to use more of a talking voice than a singing voice. So I want you, this is in your shared reading packet for this week. So this is one of those poems, songs you're going to be reading, practicing, working on your fluency. so I should hear you from home reading with me. 1 hour equals 16 minutes, 16 minutes, 16 minutes. 1 hour equals 16 minutes, and that is 1 whole hour. Have to take a breath between those little chunks. 1/4 of an hour equals 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. 1/4 of an hour equals 15 minutes, or quarter past the hour. Taking a deep breath. 1/2 of an hour equals 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. 1/2 of an hour equals 30 minutes, or half past the hour. 3/4 of an hour equals 45 minutes, 45 minutes, 45 minutes. 3/4 of an hour equals 45 minutes, or quarter till the next hour. That goes right along with our 15, 30, 45, 60, an hour, hour, power. Now go take a shower. That was a review of that poem that's in your shared reading packet it was in your shared reading packet last week, but you should already have it at home. Poor Miss Sheppard can't keep these days and weeks together. When you're here in school, you're always here to help me remember where we left off, and I'm trying to get my brain to zip back to what we did yesterday and last week and the week before, and I'm getting everything all confused. I think maybe it was in your shared reading packet, and I think I added it back in to your new packet for this week. Now, you had last week, you had some pages that looked like this, where for classwork that you were doing at home, for classwork, you had 9 clocks, and you had to give me or tell me the time on the clock. We started with telling time to the nearest hour and the nearest half hour. That's what we did last Monday, and that's exactly what your page looked like. And I know that you were thinking, we learned this in kindergarten. I already know how to do that, Miss Sheppard. Telling time to the nearest half hour and hour for most of you was probably pretty easy. So I'm going to go back as a review. I'm going to go back to Tuesday's page. Now remember, when I'm working on my clocks from home, the shorthand, you might want to write this over to the side, points to the hour. The longhand points to the minutes. Now, we've done this on Fantastic 5, but I didn't remind you in your packet last week. So if you didn't do it in your packet last week, that's okay. I didn't give you that little reminder. If you had been at school, I would have. So we're going to do a few examples. I put some highlighters in your packet for this week, and something I want you to start doing, even if you didn't do it last week, I want you to start highlighting those hands on your clock. Now, I highlighted my hands on clock 1, and yes, luckily, my highlighter is working. And Jonathan, I'm going to make sure to remember when I finish to close my highlighter, or it will make my smartboard go berserk. Now, I'm going to start with my shorthand, which points to my hour. I'm going to put a little red point right where my shorthand is pointing. And I notice my shorthand is pointing between the 5 and the 6. It's after the 5, it's not yet on the 6, which means my hour hand is telling me it's after 5, but it's not yet 6. So if my shorthand is between the 5 and the 6, my hour is going to be 5. And then I'm going to put my colon to separate my hour from my minutes. Now it's probably coming back to you. We've done this in Fantastic 5. When I look at the longhand, I know my longhand points to my minutes. So I notice my longhand is pointing right on the 3 or right to the 3. Remember when I did my clock example when we got started, I put my finger up here and I said my 12 is my starting point. So right here I'm going to put SP starting point. And then I'm simply going to count by fives. 5, 10, 15. Now I wonder why I stopped at 15, counting by fives. I could count all the way around. If I counted all the way around and came back to the 12, I would get all the way back to 60 because there are 60 minutes in an hour. But I stopped on 15 because that's where my longhand stopped. So for my minutes, I'm going to write the number 15. So my time on this clock is 5:15. AM or PM? We do this in Fantastic Five? Well, I don't know. There's not enough information to tell me AM or PM, so I'm just going to leave it as 5:15. Another way to say 5:15 is 5:15. So that gives me my correct answer for clock number 1. Now for clock number 2, the longhand's also on the 3. For clock number 3, mental math, I know it's straight up 1 o'clock. You learned that in kindergarten. So I want to go all the way to clock number 4. Now the first thing I'm going to do, and you're going to do this when you do your classwork today. If you've already done your classwork, this is something you can go back and add in for me. First thing I'm going to do, I hope my highlighter works. Let me grab it. I'm going to highlight my 4 and my 9. Or my shorthand, not my 4 and my 9. I'm going to highlight my shorthand that's almost on the 4, my longhand that's on the 9. Starting with my shorthand, which points to the hour, I see my shorthand. It's not on the 3. It's not on the 4. It's between the 3 and the 4. It's almost on the 4, which means it's almost 4 o'clock. But if it's between the 3 and the 4, my hour is going to be 3. I'm going to put, if it's between the 3 and the 4, I'm going to stick with the one that comes first. 3 comes before 4. So my hour is going to be 3. I'm going to put my colon. My colon separates my hour from my minutes. Now my longhand is on the 9. Remember, for my minutes, I'm going to my SP, my starting point, 12, and I'm going to count by fives. I'm writing my counting by fives. This is how I show my thinking so Mrs. Sheppard knows we understand what we're doing. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I'm going to zip down here. 35, 40, 45. Now, why did I stop on 45? Because my longhand stopped on the 9, and when I count by fives, when I get to the 9, I say 45. Now, this is all a mess. I do this all the time on Fantastic Five. I'm going to come over here to this big open area. Remember, I had already said my hour was 3 because my shorthand was between the 3 and the 4, and my minutes are going to be 45 because that's where my longhand stopped. I'm thinking AM antemeridian or PM post-meridian. And I'm going to say, don't know, looking at that analog clock, there is not enough information. So I'm just in that little blank. You'll have more room on your paper than I do on this smartboard page. I should have made that page a little bit bigger when I scanned it into my smartboard slide. So I'm going to say this clock is going to be 3:45. 45 minutes after 3, 45 minutes past 3. I'm going to take a deep breath. I know that was a lot of listening. Miss Sheppard did a whole lot of talking. I know that lesson went a little bit long, but I wanted to get all that in today so I would have gone over everything that you're going to need to do at home today, Monday, even though this says Tuesday. This was last Tuesday's review classwork page that you did. You're going to do this Tuesday's page. I didn't put the same clocks because if I knew if I put the same clocks, you would be able to copycat my answers, and I want to see if you can come up with those answers on your own. New thing we added today, we're highlighting our hands on the clock, and we're putting our SP for our minutes starting point, and we are writing out our counting by fives. And that is a good stop for today. I know that was a lot. I know that was a lot of listening. This is going to be one of those videos. Tomorrow's lesson is going to be very similar to today's. In tomorrow's packet, you're going to need to copycat what I just did up on the smart board, so I don't need to reteach that. If you need to see that again, you can just go back and look at today's video. And in tomorrow's packet, you're going to have another page of clocks. It's just the clock times are going to be a little bit different. So what you're going to do tomorrow and what you're going to do on Wednesday and what you're going to do on Thursday and what you're going to do on Friday are going to be the same as classwork example and the same as what we did today. It's just your clocks are going to be a little bit different. You also need to remember your fractions of an hour and your hour power. They're in your shared reading packet for this week. You can practice those working on your fluency, and you may also illustrate those if you have a little extra time in your day. Now, I usually start my lesson with a clip. We did the hickory dickory dock, and today I'm going to end my lesson with a clip. I have a what's the time, and I have a what time is it. I think we'll do our what time is it, because I think you're really going to like one, and this one's you're going to like this one. It's going to let you get up and move a little bit. When I finish this clip, that's going to be the end of this math lesson. After math, this would be a good time for you to take a little break, get you a little snack, get you a little exercise before you come back and finish the rest of your lessons for today. Remember, today's math video was really, really, really long. On our math videos, you may be breaking them up into chunks, and you may just listen to and do a little chunk at a time. I hope it works. Great listening on my happy Monday, and I'm going to end my video. Oh, Jonathan forgot to shut down that highlighter. There we go. See if that helps. That may have glitched, but it did not.
Dream English Kids.
This is going to be our end for today.
What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? It's 8 o'clock. It's time to go to school. It's 8 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock. It's 1
name is Mel.
Okay, guys, that finishes us up for today. Hope you have a happy Monday. Hope you get some recess in, and I'll see you back ready for our next lesson coming up pretty soon.